are listening to the War Report.
B, go ahead and pull up the matchups that we have. We actually are going to start with the Auburn offense. Actually, let's start with Penn State. Let's start with Penn State. Since we've already been talking about their offense.
Yeah. You hear me guys better, by the way?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
There you go.
0 for 2 to start the show. Didn't have the mic on.
You're here.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and we could hear you. It's just a lot of room tone. So
yeah, gotcha.
So Sean Clifford, he returns. He's thrown almost 500 yards so far.
Mm-hmm.
What I'll say about Sean Clifford is he looks like what you would expect from a very experienced quarterback at this point. Now, granted, his career he's been kind of up and down, but I saw a lot from him in that Purdue game, especially that last drive. He looked like he's been there before. And to me, that just strikes me as a type of quarterback you're going to want to take with you on the road with your team in a hostile environment. But your thoughts about Sean Clifford, the fan base's thoughts about him in his this is his final season, right? Or is he has about 40 more years of eligibility?
Unless he blackmailed somebody, I don't know. No, I think this is definitely his final season. The big time throws really aren't there. The great decisions aren't there, because even against Ohio, he was making good plays and good reads and stable decision making. My quarterback coach isn't going to get mad at me type of decisions, but when you look at the big throws, maybe backside against cover 4 where you've got a man matchup that you like, not looking at those. The ability to push the ball into certain situations if you see a blitz and you can replace with a throw. If you do that quickly and you make that decision, then he eats the ball and you get a sack, which is a right decision, but was there a better one to make? And then, in the game against Auburn, I just thought he threw off his back foot the entire game. And until that this is the narrative thing of football, is until that final drive, I don't think he was performing up to the level that Penn State needed. And I said going into that game, if you make that a contest of 6-year quarterbacks between Aiden O'Connell, who was great for Purdue last year and then put up 59 points the next week, and you make it between him and Sean Clifford, that's the advantage for Purdue. And it became that, and Sean Clifford pulled one out in that drive and operated that very well in that 2-minute situation. But it was my opinion, based on watching their defense, that should have been more of what the game was like. And I know they scored 35 points, and I know I'm being overly critical about a player, but the fact is he is what he is. He is not going to be a guy that is going to take over too many games and win them for you with advanced level quarterback understanding and accuracy, decision-making, and throwing guys open into windows. He will do some of that some of the time. But that's really the story has been for Penn State. When is 5-star quarterback Drew Aller going to take over? Because he looks the part and he performed the part against Ohio. Mm-hmm. And he played with the starters. They got him some playing time after halftime with the starting offensive line and some of the starting receivers, and he performed. He made it look easy. Now, again, it's Ohio at home in the home opener. It's not on the road against Auburn, but I think for most fans, there is a one of my coworkers coined it well, Sean Clifford fatigue. And the next guy has to be the guy that takes you somewhere, and it's just, is that going to be this year? And is it going to be a Jalen Hurts to a Tagovailoa situation, Trevor Lawrence, where the 5-star comes in and replaces the starter? Or is Clifford going to keep his job throughout the season? So it's not just the idea that, Sean Clifford is what he is. There's other guys behind him now that people want to see and that have legitimate talent.
Do you think that, obviously a strong running game helps any quarterback and helps any offense. One thing to make of note, I see that Katron Allen is the am I looking at that? No, Kevon Lee is the starter here, but it's actually Nicholas Singleton who's been kind of the breakout running back for this group. How much of him do you expect to see against Auburn?
So that's really the stories. You got a bunch of Penn State had a very good class of 2022. and 5-star quarterback and a 5-star running back in Nicholas Singleton, where he had 179-yard rushing on 10 carries. In over 2 years, Penn State has not had a 100-yard rusher. He finally broke that, and he broke that in a big way. So Kevon Lee is the starter. He's a dependable veteran. He does a lot of things well, but there's just a difference. And the comparisons, even from myself, and I try to be, film analyst, analytical, looking at things in non-emotional terms, I can't help but start comparing him, Nick Singleton, to everybody that's good. Internally, people are like, I remember Saquon Barkley making runs like that. I work for On3. On3, our scouting director, Charles Power, compares him to Nick Chubb. Looking at him in person, he's 217 and he's skinny. So he's going to be a big back. He's physical. He runs hard. Not only does he run like a 4.39, and I'm being nice, like he's a legit 4.3 at 217, but he will bury his head in your chest if you're a linebacker or a defensive end. It doesn't matter. He runs power through contact. Maybe needs a little more wiggle, but when he's finished, he's going to be another top pick in the NFL draft. So Penn State has that juice in the backfield again, finally, to help Clifford out, who has not had that the last couple of seasons. So that's a huge benefit for the team. And then Katron Allen is another high 4-star player. He's a sophomore. Like, he's a true freshman, but he came from IMG Academy, so he understands blocking schemes. He can catch. He can find the actual point of attack on a inside zone instead of just doing what every other running back in America does, which is I'm going to cut back on every play.
Right.
So they've got a good stable of running backs this year, and Nick Singleton is the guy that's going to break out and make big plays, while the other guys are dependable, reliable, good football players.
Is that the B? Didn't you have a question, man?
I wanted to kind of get into Clifford a little bit, because I remember last year you came on and you said that you had a term for what Bo Nix was, and also what Sean Clifford was, and that was a non-viable starting quarterback. Yeah. Now, we don't have the same guy anymore, but you have the same guy. And so I was very eager to hear how you assessed him in these first 2 weeks, because you got the same guy. But I mean, I watched the Purdue game. I only watched the scoreboard for Ohio, right? So I was like, maybe you turned the corner, maybe 5 years is it. But you seem to still be on that, hey, he's still the same guy, but the team has performed well. So how do you view, it's 2 parts. When you see Will Levis getting big wins and playing well, because I know he came from Penn State, and so you go, man, we could add that guy. Does that cross your mind, or are you, I guess, settled in the fact that, look, this is who we have. At least we may have something in a layer coming behind him. I am at least satisfied with Clifford. I guess it depends on how the season plays out, right?
Well, so first off, like, I'm looking at this from an evaluation standpoint, not necessarily from like a fan standpoint. And I've been watching Sean Clifford, I think, since the dawn of time. Like, I woke up in the morning. It's kind of a Groundhog Day situation. I've been watching him for so long that I wake up, I watch Sean Clifford, and then I brush my teeth and go to, that's the situation. So I would like something else to see. I'd like something else new to review. But the Will Levis thing is another sore spot for Penn State football fans. Absolutely. There was very little evidence that Will Levis was going to be what he was when he was at Penn State. Right. He had some opportunities to get on the field, and he was kind of a run-first guy. And he did not seem like somebody that wanted to throw the football as an instinct. Now, some of the things are there, and I went into a long breakdown of going all the way back to his high school film, looking at him, in his time at Penn State, and then what he became at Kentucky. And the offense there for him is perfect, because they incorporate a heavy dose of his run game, his ability as a quasi-fullback, but he also has great mechanics, a strong arm, and to me, the thing about him is the willingness to stay in the pocket. He's always had that when he actually throws the football, but it was understanding where the ball should go, the timing of the play, those kind of important quarterback DNA things were the part that he seemed to struggle with, didn't really know what he's looking at early on. And that's the part that's changed. And that's unlocked a lot of these things for Will Levis, where at least last season, I haven't watched any of his film this year. Previously, the inaccuracies downfield, the aggressiveness to throw the ball, which is a double-edged sword for him, that was there before, but he became more accurate in those plays and made better decisions. So from that perspective, I'm not somebody that's going to kill a coach for playing the guy that they know is dependable. And James Franklin and Sean Clifford have been tied together for a long time. Sean Clifford is a great leader, great locker room presence. Everyone follows him. And, when things are good and you've got a good offensive line and good everything else, he can be a good player. But when things are bad, and they were bad the last 2 seasons, he is the product of the environment. So you get a better environment, and that's what Penn State has this year. We'll see. But yeah, the Will Levis thing for Penn State fans especially is kind of a hard pill to swallow, considering he likely will be a first-round pick, and Penn State hasn't had a first-round pick quarterback since Kerry Collins. So it's been a while.
Yeah. Wow.
When you look at this graphic here, T. Frank, what is the very important matchup that you're looking to see on the Penn State's offensive side of the ball? What is a position or what is a skill area that you're looking at when you say this needs to be productive in order to give us a good shot at winning?
So the caveat is I've studied the defensive scheme for Auburn and how it's changed since last season and some of the new wrinkles, but I haven't really gotten into the front seven yet. That was on my to-do list today, and then, bunch of other things happened. So unfortunately, I can't speak too much to the offensive line versus the defensive line. But I do think, and not to beat this sorely dead horse, but the coverage that and the plan that Auburn came in with last year, where they were going to play soft coverage. They weren't going to do a whole lot to confuse or be complex or blitz. No stunts, no crosses, nothing to confuse the offensive line. That played perfectly into what Penn State needed. So to me, what's the plan this year? Because I've seen more aggressiveness, more zone blitzing, a little bit more too high safety, not so much just playing that cover 3 look. So is that going to confuse the offensive line and Clifford? And then, I've seen kind of the PFF numbers. I've seen the reputation of the front seven, that they're going to be stout and they're going to be good against the run. Pass rushing, Penn State has better offensive line play this year. Olu Fashanu is going to be another borderline superstar player. He's the number 1 rated pass protector according to PFF. He's given up 0 pressures, 0 sacks. He has had not a lot of work to do because they're good pass rushers. So I'm expecting good there, but right tackle Caden Wallace and some of the interior players have been up and down in pass protection. I'm assuming Penn State's not going to run the football very well in this game. They have not been consistent run blockers. It's going to be up to Nick Singleton to break a run outside the formation, outside the scheme. He can do that, but that's, again, where I need to dig into the outside linebackers and the players in the front seven and say, Nick Singleton in space, is he going to get it done? That would be my question to you guys is, what's the athleticism like of that front seven? Can they chase a guy who is, as like I described with Singleton, can they chase that guy down before he gets started?
Yeah, I think we've got a ton of speed on this defense. Guys like, Owen Papo is just, he runs like a freaking wide receiver. The question is going to be the same question I had last game with him. When he gets there, is he going to be able to get him to the ground? Like, plenty strong enough. Sometimes he misses tackles though. So it's going to be about him just getting there and wrapping up. But outside of that, the speed around the edges are definitely good. That's the one thing I've been happy with Auburn's defense so far in the front seven. It's just the discipline, misdirection, and trying to, break and contain hasn't been an easy proposition against Auburn so far, specifically in the run game and with mobile quarterbacks, right? We haven't had a mobile quarterback in these first 2 games. They were capable, hasn't gone nuts on us. So been very disciplined thus far this season and making sure that they're just being in their rush lanes and not over pursuing, but pursuing pursuing to the point of being able to gain tackle as well. Not a lot of just one-on-one plays and space having to be made. So, and they've had really good screen recognition, right? So that's the thing that I've been the most impressed with the front seven is their recognition of screens. Haven't been getting burnt by screens very often so far.
Yeah. And I was going to say, in the Monday presser, they give out this info. We are still the best run defense in the conference as of week 2. So even though we've given them some pass plays, we let some running quarterbacks pass on us, honestly, their ability to run really just forced us into zone, and we got picked apart a little bit. So the pass defense numbers look bad, but I don't think Clifford will or should scare the defense so much where they have to play zone and have to account for somebody that's as quick as the quarterbacks we played for the first 2 weeks. So I'm interested to see how they play. After I'm not sure if you kept up with us last year, but once we played the defensive game that we played against Bama, then everybody looked back on that Penn State game with a whole lot of questions, like, what in the hell? If we could do that all year. So my guess is that, I mean, these coaches have seen that. They knew what they had at the end of the season, and they may not have known what they had early last season. But now they know. A lot of the personnel is still there. So I am just as interested in you. What are they going to do, and who are they going to send to do it? I'm kind of excited about that prospect.
Yeah, and what I will also say, too, to B's point is we showed a little bit more in week 2, but for the most part, we've been very vanilla.